Who are Unrivaled? We are a UK-based agency. We are a platinum partner of both Sitecore and Optimizely, and we have offices and clients internationally. Some of the larger, more composable-focused clients are on the screen here, and they have quite a spread of requirements. NTT are in global technical services. Redrow are a premium house builder in the UK. Royal Canin sell pet food internationally. And the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews, who are a real mouthful after last night's party, promote golf and competitions and the rules of the game across the world. And the London Metal Exchange is one of the world's foremost commodities markets. And you're going to hear about Manpower's talent solutions a bit later. But talking to these clients and to other people that we've spoken to, we're seeing some kind of common challenges that organizations face as they try to update their plans towards composable systems. Unsurprisingly, for anything in the IT space, cost always turns out to be a factor. The kind of obvious things of having staff to manage infrastructure and deploy things into clouds can mount up. But we've noticed that IT departments trying to manage digital estates and their own resources tend to move a bit slower than other parts of organizations would like. And this tends to lead to some of those other departments going out and buying their own SaaS systems to fill gaps and to move faster. And when that goes unchecked, it often leaves organizations effectively paying twice for basically the same systems. Secondly, organizations that don't plan to share content very often fail to share content. It's very easy for copy to get created in per-channel silos, and that tends to make the discovery and the reuse across teams and across borders too harder than it needs to be. And it's a very similar story for brand assets and artwork. Multiple dams often spring up, creative effort gets duplicated, and it can be tricky for organizations to keep good uniform branding across their messages. A lot gets said about making sure that you have a full view of your customer these days, but many organizations do still have problems with siloed customer data. If web interactions get stored in a different system to shop transactions, it gets harder to have that overall view. And having those multiple silos often comes with challenges around data protection and the kind of information management. And the big loser when you have these silos of data tends to be personalization. Without that holistic view across the customer, it's surprisingly easy to make poor choices for personalization when you present content. And we also see that organizations having different tools for personalizing in different channels can lead to inconsistency in the results. There's no shortage of choice for commerce software as well, but people find that picking appropriate tooling can be quite challenging here. Selling kitchens that get fitted into a new build house is a very different business to selling bags of cat food, and the software choices and the user interfaces that get built need to reflect that. We meet clients who have started with kind of off-the-shelf box-shifting commerce software, and as their businesses have grown, they found it's harder and harder to kind of shoehorn their particular processes into that software. And that realization can be a big driver for change. But one thing that kind of binds all of those points together is that for all the technical challenges we face, people and the processes around them are often one of the biggest challenges in IT. Getting your stakeholders to share a workable vision for how you transform your business is not necessarily easy. And this fundamentally can affect all of the previous points. And more organizations, we think, are realizing that getting the right tools for these challenges becomes easier when you think about composable systems, because you're not tied into one monolithic view of how things should work. But it's important to remember, I think, that adopting Composable is not a yes or no thing. There's a continuum here. A minimal approach might start from taking your traditional experience platform and adding on a couple of things on the top that give some specific advantages. Small changes for small benefits, but a fast, easy start to get a program achieving something for the business. And at the other end of the scale, you can have a fully composable model where every software need is a separate system integrated together with some sort of low-code API-based system. And that will get you the best tool for all of the needs you have. But it's complex and hence costly and time-consuming to implement. So we're finding that the majority of people we talk to are really kind of aiming somewhere in the middle here. That they will keep some of the bigger, more monolithic products that they've found fit them reasonably well, but then add on other tooling that fits gaps around the edges of that. And they're getting their results by focusing the money and the time that they do have on getting the best result that they can from that. A while back, Gartner was quoted as saying that about 60% of organizations were talking about adopting composable systems. And some more recent statistics suggest that quite a lot of people are working towards this middle ground that we're seeing. At the start of this year, Gartner was saying that about half of executives were talking about wanting to invest in composable. And they thought that a third of their cloud spending was going to be on these sorts of composable SaaS systems over the next 4 years. But really importantly, almost every top executive saw these systems as driving digital transformation for them. And the Mac Alliance summed this up quite well recently by saying that these good composable choices are about future-proofing your technology. They drive great experiences for your customers, but that best of need choice now doesn't prevent you from changing and evolving and continuing to meet new needs later. So when you're working on solutions for your organizations, we would argue that you need to start from thinking around how your data flows, how your business is going to use it, and what your people need to do to help enable that. And then on top of that, you can think about things like choosing a CMS that supports your requirements for content delivery to particular important channels and enables reuse, and that helps your governance processes rather than getting in the way of them. And the media asset stuff is very similar in that context. But it is important to not forget about thinking about taxonomy and discoverability for these things. The more your content stores of shared information grow, the more important that discoverability becomes. Avoiding the silos of customer data that we mentioned before means looking for a CDP that's not tied to a particular channel. You want systems that can capture all those useful interactions, and they need good APIs that will connect into the systems that you're using for that, ideally with little technical effort. You don't want to have to make big changes to make it fit. And you want a similar model with the personalization tooling. It needs to be able to reuse data from your CMS and your DAM and your CDP to serve content. And it needs to be able to do it easily so it doesn't become a point of friction for the staff who actually have to provide the content and deliver the web messages or the messages in other channels. And lastly, from me, for the commerce thing, it really does come down to thinking about the tooling you need to smoothly sell products. Tools that will support the channels that you're focused on and that will integrate with your warehouse systems, but don't get in the way of the user's experience to buy the things you're selling. The API-first tooling that a lot of organizations are talking about now gives you a lot of flexibility to achieve that because you get really fine-grained control over how they connect and what the user interface looks like. But it's important to remember the cost trade-off that those systems often don't come with any user interface. So you're building a lot more stuff there.